Agreed to. I call the honourable member for Lyons.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. There were many failures of the previous government, indeed. Pink bats, school halls, the Australia Network, the NBN. But the tools for trade shouldn't have been one of them, frankly. This would not have been on the list if the planning and the compliance and the tools had been the thing that were actually purchased. But everyone knows, everyone has a story, Deputy Speaker, about poorly spent grants under the Tools for Trade scheme. Because ultimately it is the responsibility not just of the employer but also the apprentice to contribute to their education and their training. It is through education and training that opportunities open. And I had a technical background. I studied trade many years ago, and other doors opened. I completed that and I went on to further study. On Friday I was at home in my electorate and I visited Mark Turner at Turner's Blackwood Furniture in Western Junction. And I walked in and, having introduced myself, I met Daniel, who's a fourth-year apprentice at that business, and I asked him straight out. I asked him the question in front of his employer, Mark, and by the end of it we were having a bit of a chuckle, Deputy Speaker, because, as I said, everybody knows a story, everybody has seen the examples of how, what a notionally good idea, how with poor planning it didn't deliver on the expectations that I think many would have had, no doubt with good intent when it was devised. Because indeed in my home state of Tasmania is experiencing a skills shortage in more than 60 trade areas, including carpentry, bricklaying and electrical work. My state's economic downturn has dramatically affected our industry and manufacturing base, and Tasmania has suffered a serious cycle of business shutdowns. Young Tasmanians bear the brunt of that flow-on effect more than just about any other sector of the community. The number of apprenticeships offered has dropped and less apprenticeship positions are being filled. As one industry leader told me this week, this part of the business and industry sector is always the first to be affected when times get tough. Apprentices are often the first to go. It's last on, first to leave when a business or industry closes and the boss can't afford to keep them. This does not bode well for an already challenged younger generation for our country's tradesmen and tradeswomen. The latest national figures reveal that in my electorate of Lyons has only 1,037 apprentices in training, including 430 identified as from the skills shortage areas. This is not a large number, Madam Speaker, when you consider that my electorate makes up nearly half of the area of Tasmania. And that's why this Trade Support Loans Bill 2014 is indeed important for the young people in my electorate of Lyons. We welcome whatever can be done to support more young Tasmanians into and through training to increase their skills level and therefore their chances of long-term employment. That message has already trickled through to business and industry in my state since the scheme was announced as part of our government's first federal budget last month. Austral Bricks at Longford in my electorate of Lyons is a subsidiary of the National Brickworks business. Austral has been making bricks in Tasmania for more than 35 years. It employs 25 staff and has invested $3 million in the plant in the past 3 years. Only last month, Federal Environment Minister Greg Hunt flew to northern Tasmania for the official launch of Australia's first carbon-neutral brick produced at that factory. Austral General Manager David Robertson told me this week his company welcomed the Trade Support Loan Scheme as extra support for apprentices through to the end of their training. He said that Tasmania needed as many apprentices as we could muster to help fill skills shortages. This new scheme will provide similar financial support as the HELP scheme does for university students, which has been extended to sub-bachelor degrees and diploma courses, which, as David suggests from personal experience, is a good way to assist cash-strapped students, particularly, financially towards the end of their training. It is a similar thing with apprentices starting on a very low wage base. This scheme will help them in those first vital few years when their take-home pay is indeed minimal, but they face the same costs for tools and other equipment or accommodation as their qualified counterparts. The Tasmanian Building and Construction Industry Training Board Chief Executive Simon Cocker said this week that he too thought the new scheme would work well to help cut the dropout rate among young apprentices. He tells me there is a more positive feeling for growth in Tasmania's building and construction industry than there has been for a number of years, with several big projects on the way, like the rebuild of the Myer store in Hobart, the Royal Hobart Hospital, if we can get it back on track, and the Parliament Square develops. Let's all hope this scheme may also help to attract some young people back to the state to train and work in industry locally. Deputy Speaker, the Trade Support Loans delivers on an election commitment by this government to provide income-contingent loans for living costs for apprentices. Up to $20,000 will be available over 4 years to apprentices undertaking certificates 3 or 4 qualifications. They will be similar to the higher education loan program, as I mentioned, with the repayment done via the tax system once the threshold income level has reached. Students who successfully complete their training, and indeed that's something we do want to see, Deputy Speaker, will receive a 20% discount on their loan. What a deal. It's the best loan I'll ever get in my life. And according to the latest data, about 20% of trade apprentices do drop out by the end of their first year, about 30% by the end of their second year, 50% don't actually complete the course. The retention rate is unacceptable. Reasons for apprentices not completing qualifications include minimal associated wages in their early years. This goes a long way to address such deficiencies. The scheme targets the aspect of non-completion and provides support where it is needed most, with loan payments heavily weighted in the first 2 years of the apprentice's training, when the risk of withdrawal is highest and wages are at their lowest. It is a must if we are serious about increasing the number of apprentices to tackle our skills shortages as we are in Tasmania. In summary, there is a mutual obligation here between the apprentice and the employer. The scheme offers, as I mentioned, front-ended payments, $8,000 or 12 by $666.67. Try saying that with a couple of in year 1, $6,000 or 12 by $500 payments in year 2, $4,000 or 12 by $333.33 payments in year 3, and $2,000 or 12 by $166.67 in year 4. The important thing to recognise is that the apprentice can borrow as much or as little as they require. For example, somebody may over 6 months using $4,000 of their loan, buy tools and then opt out. They complete their apprenticeship, Deputy Speaker, and after 4 years they get a 20% discount on that $4,000. What a wonderful deal. Another example might be that they save up over the first year for the $8,000 to buy maybe a second-hand ute, for example, for $8,000. On completion, this is depreciation on steroids, Deputy Speaker. They get a 20% discount on that rate. What a deal. It's the best deal they'll ever get in their lives. There is an extensive list of apprenticeships on the National Skills Needs list, and I'm really pleased to note that the Minister has included, particularly for my electorate, and it's true in Tasmania more broadly, that agriculture and horticulture qualifications which aren't on the National Skills Needs list have been included and improved by the Minister as additional skills priority areas that are eligible for the trade support loans, although they're not on that list, as I mentioned. And that's particularly important in respect of skills within the dairy industry in my state of Tasmania. It is a growing area, but also within the horticultural sector as well. And I'm really pleased to see the addition of those 2 apprentice courses within this loan scheme. It really is a very positive initiative, Deputy Speaker. It has broad support from apprentices and employers, and it elevates trades alongside those other courses, the diploma courses, the sub-bachelor degrees and the higher education university degrees, and elevates apprenticeships and the trades to that same level, and I commend the bill wholeheartedly to the House. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.